Welcome back to Good Morning LaLa, and we have our dear friend Matt Dillon in the house. He's extraordinary PR agent and part of our family. Really.
He is.
Hey guys.
How you doing?
Hey, look at baby cake.
I'm so
Of course, well, the real guest is right here.
Right?
star of the show. Thank you again so much for all you've done to contribute to our show, to this community.
It's mutual. You guys have this is a great platform. It's really niche and targeted to what media should be these days. If you want to watch disaster and thing, turn on the news at 6 o'clock and you're good to go.
So we want to talk to you today about, we want to first talk about what is PR. There's people out there may not even understand what PR is. And
I might have a different definition of it too. Considering I've been doing this for over a decade now. So for me, PR is straight up traditional. I'm going to get you in a magazine, I'm going to book you on a TV show, I'm going to do press and media related to New York Times, what have you. So that to me is straight up what PR is.
Hired.
That's what it is. Nowadays it's so diluted, and I actually just read an article about the influencer, the Fat Jewish, who made millions of dollars. Millions of dollars off regramming memes. And he said the age of the influencer is over. It's all about to just fall through the wall. So it's just for me, I'm well, because PR is authentic. It's about being authentic, and it's about if you open a magazine or a newspaper and you see an advertisement, you know somebody paid for that. So I'm I could be promoting anything and being oh, look, I'm in the New York Times. Well, yeah, you paid $20,000 to have that. But if somebody writes a story about you, hopefully positive, in a positive skew, it comes with a little bit of guts and oomph behind it that you're interested and you want to know more. And that's kind of where. That's how I like to position my business, and that's how you build, how you grow, and I just if you authentically know your brand, whether you're an author, actress, TV presenter, personality, then you kind of are able to build and grow your brand outside of the media as well. Because I think the social media whole hoopla, it's tired and boring.
The smoke and mirrors.
Nobody gives.
But don't you feel? And don't you feel so even when you read an article that's written by somebody else about somebody, you can smell it a mile away. You're someone paid to have this person write an article about them.
It should usually say advertorial.
Yeah, I mean,
that's it should be cut and dry. Should be cut and dry. But I think a lot of people call in favors. But I don't work with miniature places. So I'm unless we're doing New York Times, baby, we ain't playing.
But I feel PR is such an interesting place. It's such an interesting time in history for PR.
Right now it is.
Right now,
because
such
PR
an
is the
time.
definition. You ask what the definition is, that's mine. You ask 20 other people, they'll give you, oh, it's marketing, it's social media, it's this, it's that. You kind of have to say, well, I do it all. But it's really, really, the crux of it is if you want that cup to be out there and blanketed out there, what makes that cup unique? What's the point of reference to competitors, and how do I push that through? That's really the sense of it.
And beyond developing an authentic brand, you're developing authentic connections and
100%.
authentic relationships, because
100%.
you have to collaborate and build this together, right?
Right here. You help me, we help each other. I mean, even down to my client base and how I work together. I call this one happy blended family. Because everybody, you've had Derek Warburton on here before, who runs the Palm magazine, so that's an avenue for my clients. But then I'm working, I've worked with anyone from Kellen Lutz, I've done collaborations with Katy Perry and her makeup lines in Australia, Olivia Culpo. So everybody is kind of, I only like to work with people that build each other up. And not everybody, that doesn't mean we all have to be friends though. Because you can't have a client base that's everybody's oh, I love you, you're amazing. It's not reality. It's not real. But there's respect and then give and take. And that should be the same thing with I always say that the best thing is you never know where somebody is going to go. So it's when you meet a producer, 10 years ago I met a producer on the Today Show with a client, Aviva Drescher, who was a real housewife of New York. Everyone's always oh, that crap. And I was actually, everything I know stemmed from her. I mean, she had a great story. She was missing a leg. She wrote a book. It's quite inspirational, but it's that person that was the associate producer is now the executive producer.
Right. But you spoke about something when we were talking about what we're going to talk about in the topic. You said that the mind shift used to be where you kind of hold all the information, and now it's shifted so much, and it reminds me of the law of giving and receiving, knowing that it's one and the same. As we give to somebody, we know that whatever it comes back from them or from somewhere else, the universe has to deliver it back. And
Without expectation, though.
Without expectations, right?
That's everything right there.
So what does that look like for you? How have you shifted from kind of the old school mindset to the new school?
I've shifted, but it's taken a lot. I've shifted in terms of the way I structure my company, number one, because I was about to dig myself a grave and like literally trying to do everything and do it all myself because I have a particular way, just like you have a particular way and you.
Right.
We have ways that we want things done. Now I work with an amazing co-chair, my business partner, who's Marissa Hebert, who's in New York City. One, that way we own the whole country. Two, she has her own flair, and it's about letting go. But it's also, like you said, it's like people are still a little bit reticent to be like, hey, I can help you if you do this. And it's like sharing context, and I know we spoke off camera about it. Sharing context is not, it's not I'm stealing your thing and they're gonna like me better. It's actually like if you really frame your mind properly, you're all gonna win.
Right.
Like if you know the Wall Street Journal editor-in-chief and I can get you on Good Morning America, why wouldn't we cross-pollinate and like grow together so we all get, it's a crazy, crazy world, and I think PR is more important than ever because if it's done in the correct way, it breeds authenticity. And authenticity, if I'm reading a magazine or I see something on television, even if it's a cooking segment, like I'm like, you can tell people that are paid to be a cooking segment because they can't cook.
Well, the reality
I mean, let's
right,
they
right.
can't.
The
Not that I've
reality
ever
is-
represented anybody like that.
The reality is perception is actually reality, right? And from a relative perspective. So PR is all about building your perception of somebody.
I say perception's 9/10 the law. I know that's not the actual saying, but it's 9/10 the law.
And
But you also now, because when I first started this, I was like, oh my God, I'm good at this. And then I was like, well, if I stretch this truth just a little bit this way, I can get something there. And I
Spin it
stretch
here,
it,
spin it there.
But you start spinning, and you start spinning, and then it can spin out of control. And it can actually be like, especially when you get a client that's like, oh, I'll do whatever. Like, spin it, let's go, let's go. And it goes out of control. That's why now it's like, I kind of bring it in. I have amazing clients from like Danielle Savory, who's one of the leads on Station 19, Shonda Rhimes Show. I work with people that are loyal back. And I think as we all grow together, I've learned the rule, like, you don't need it immediately. You know, she just got into filming of season 2. We had a great season 1 run of amazing press and all of this amazing stuff. And with clients, I'm like, people sometimes want it faster, they're not the clients for me. And they usually will burn out pretty fast.
Well, and those aren't the relationships for me either, because it's
No,
interesting.
long term, like
Long
friendships.
term,
We all formed
absolutely.
friendships of coming in regularly here. And I think that's so important to, I mean, you've had a wonderful TV career. You guys,
building
you're
one,
building
yeah.
one. You're just like,
Doing
God is a
everything.
woman. What is it, Ariana Grande? I swear.
It is Ariana Grande. Yeah, the new one.
She is like so
symbol.
like zen.
and then I throw
But
some
it's about-
F-bombs in there.
Oh, you know,
Just to loosen it up.
She
Don't
is in
say that
human
because I'll
form
trouble.
right now. She is in human form.
You know, I just think it's so important to work cohesively with people and like not be afraid to ask. This is the biggest thing that I had trouble with, asking for help and pretend like, because it's like opening up and saying, well, I don't know the answer. And I'm like,
Well,
Yeah,
here's the,
just
here's
rather
the
be lost.
thing.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
But once you give up that power, and that power is just you being like your ego, I'm like, oh, just once you throw that away, it was like starting clean. Because I started my company when I was like 21 years old in Australia. And then I moved to New York for 10 years, knew nobody, talked my way into scenarios and situations. I worked at an art gallery for 2 years trying to sell art. That was
That's
horrendous.
not you.
No, I couldn't,
Yeah.
couldn't sell art
Yeah.
to save my life.
But I think that what I've noticed here and witnessing you and witnessing other people is that the people that give and give and give, you just naturally want to do business with them and you want to naturally give back to them. And it is just this giving and receiving thing that goes on. But PR agents are changing a lot. They're becoming partners with their clients. It's a totally different like industry than it was, say, 10 years ago.
I mean, if you want, yeah, I definitely agree with that statement that they are becoming, because I feel like I'm the psychologist, the glam person, the this, the that. Is it the best idea for that? I love it. I thrive on that, like
Partnership.
that grind. But if you don't want that partnership, there's plenty of big PR companies that'll just filter you through. And that's, that's why there's corporate, celebrity corporate, and then somebody like me.
There's
You know,
PR with a puppy.
Wait, wake up. Yeah. But you know, I just think, yeah, it has changed and evolved, but I think it's also, I think people need to understand, like, because everybody can use PR. Everybody. Like,
That's one of the shocks of coming to LA. You're like, oh, it's pretty much all bot. Like, it's like,
Oh, 100%.
It's so interesting, right?
Well, I have a question. So let's say that you have a client out there, and of course you've got nothing but star clients, really. But let's say you have a person out there, and they're like, "Man, I would love to, work with somebody like Matt. Maybe he doesn't have the bandwidth or capacity left because he's booked, but I want to work with someone like him." What do they need to do in advance of hooking up or partnering with someone like you?
There's a few things. I always say, like, the simple things, like in terms of if we're gonna hit the ground running and working with magazines, have like do a lifestyle shoot, number one. Even if you're whatever you are, if you want to be your brand, whether you're like own a trucking company, do a photo shoot that represents what your lifestyle is. Not like silly Hollywood headshots. Do a lifestyle shoot, because that's straight away you can start getting online stories. But I just think really like know what your brand is, and that's such a big sweeping statement to say know what your brand is, because it took me over a decade to find, and it was up, down, and it still is. It still is, because PR is like that one thing that like people are like, all right, well, I'm not on a show anymore, bye.
Right. It's a cyclical
And
business.
I'm like, where'd you go? I need my money. She needs to eat, come on. But I'm available. If anyone,
On that note, Matt, what is your brand?
I kind of like the niche of like people like, I bring her everywhere now. She sits on a set, she sits there. It's kind of like a little naff, because people are like, oh, look at this, like, with his dog. And I'm like, actually, people remember me because of her. And so now it's kind of like, and then, I'm not afraid to go and talk to people and like ask questions and be like, oh, so what do you do? Who are you doing? And where are you going? What's your product? What's your thing? You got to be open, and not all the time. I'm a firm believer in the concepts. Not everybody I meet is a client of mine, but I know a lot of other PR firms that I can flip them to. So it's literally, again, it's about that collaboration. But what my brand is just, I love it like family. It's like everybody that comes with me has, if I'm not passionate about it and I'm not friends with you, like we have an outside life to it. I think PR, honestly, is the one business where you can mix business with pleasure, because if I don't like what you do and I'm just taking your cash, it'll show in the results.
Well, I like what you do.
And
I like what you
I like your mama.
I think
She's
brand,
available for campaigns.
Your brand to me is like fun. You bring, because some of this industry can be kind of nasty sometimes, quite frankly, and you can get a little jaded of realizing that it's just like bought. A lot of it's bought, and I think that you bring friendship, you bring fun, you bring like, let's do this, but let's have fun in the process.
Let's have fun. Let's work hard and know the difference between being a see you next, like getting aggressive, between being strong. Like, because if I'm with a client, like I have to fight tooth and nail for clients, but there is a way to do it with kindness, as opposed to like I'm going to throw people under the bus.
Such a profound, it's one of the countless things that we just absolutely love about you is that, your ability to build relationship. You're so deeply and truly authentic, and you're so incredibly kind and positive. And I've been reading a book recently, Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. He's sort of an expert in persuasion. And one of the points that he makes is that creating a positive association between sort of you and your brand and the brand experience or the product and service experience is everything. And you do that so well, Matt. So I just want to commend you for that.
That's really
Well,
nice
I only
of you.
like you because you're dog. So
Erin always speaks the truth, so.
Well, I knew where it lies.
I'm a favorite here. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more on Good Morning Wildlands.
Thanks, guys.